everybody, happy Friday and welcome to the Fanatic Forum. I am your Fanatic and host, George Bueller. Unfortunately, I am flying solo. My man, Seth Manhammer, is off this evening here, but he will be back next week promptly. So give all your best of your love to him here. You got to take care of an emergency real quick. Hopefully nothing life-threatening or anything like that. But anywho, we will wish him the best. He'll be back next week, like we said here. So tonight we've got one topic in particular. I obviously watching Monday Night Raw premiering on Netflix this week. One elephant in the room we got to talk about, all the wrestling world is discussing. What you gonna do, Hulkster, when the crowd boos you? And it's not because he's playing a bad guy. It's because he might be a bad guy in real life. So we will talk about that in just a bit here. But yeah, that's definitely the topic of discussion in the wrestling world here. Lots of podcasts have been covering already. You've heard some people talk about it. I think even Triple H made a statement about it. You can find on online everywhere. Best one, though, Mark Henry. If you look him up, or actually if you go to Smokes and Road Beers, their episode last night, which you can find Smokes and Road Beers podcast on Facebook and Rumble. They're 6:30 Eastern. That's basically Seth's show there. Anyway, they were talking about that last night. They played that Mark Henry video there, but yes, we'll talk about that in a little bit here. But anywho, a couple announcements we got to make here. Of course, in 2 weeks, the Multiverse fundraiser, January 24th through the 26th. Of course, that is our yearly fundraiser we do. For the second year in a row, we are honoring comic books for kids. Of course, they're definitely a friend of the podcast. We love that organization. So we definitely want to support them. And so they are going to be our charitable honoree this year. So basically all proceeds that we raise through the Multiverse fundraiser for all 3 days, 100% goes to comic books for kids. And of course, our contribution on Friday evening at 8, as our usual time, is going to be, we're talking wrestling again here because we have got one of the finest wrestling historians, at least in the Southern Indiana area. But I'm biased because I enjoy his work, and I'm also a friend, John Cosper. And then, of course, the voice of Ohio Valley Wrestling, Dean Hill, will be on the show. And we're going to be talking about Dean's book, biography that John wrote with Dean. Basically the two of them, together as a collaboration. So we're going to be definitely talking about Dean's book, his history in wrestling, and, of course, what John's got coming up. So, yeah, lots of good wrestling talk in 2 weeks there. So looking forward to that. V is on here tonight. Good to see you, sir. Good to see you. Yeah, like I said, Seth had to take care of something this evening, so yeah, he's got the night off. Unfortunately, like I said, just came up, but not a problem. I'm used to handling things by myself, so I will be here. And of course, but glad to see you guys in the chat. So we will definitely be talking to you all as well. Of course. Actually, this is something new information here. We have a special guest next week here, and this one I'm really looking forward to. This means a lot to me. Close friend of mine and someone who I basically mentored for about 8 years, literally has his first comic book coming out. He and the group he is with, Prodigy Comics, have a GoFundMe that's currently running right now, running until early February. And so it's an anthology book that's literally launching the entire line for Prodigy Comics. It's basically, so you get all kinds of stories in there. My friend AJ has a story in there. His character's name is Sagittarius. Very kind of a Green Arrow-ish sort of character, but a lot of different twists, a lot of differences there, but definitely Green Arrow influence for sure. So anyway, so if you want to support that ahead of the show here, go to zoop.gg/Prodigy-Comics. And so that's where you can find Prodigy Comics and their fundraiser. Of course, they got all different levels you can join in, either getting just digital comics, you can actually get print comics, variant covers, all sorts of little extras in there as well. So yeah, basically supporting and helping some young comic creators here, literally in their first event. So yeah, I'm really excited to support them. And we're going to have AJ Howard, who is the writer, one of the writers for the stories, and Zane Francis. I'm sorry, I can't remember Zane's last name. Anyway, but we're going to have them on the show here. So artist and writer for Prodigy Comics. So yeah, really looking forward to that. Anywho, so I do have some new comics for us this week here because it wouldn't be the Fanatic Forum without some new comic reviews. And actually, this week it's all indie stuff here. So I'm actually kind of interesting here. No DC, no Marvel. There's some good stuff this week, granted. But yeah, all indie books this week here. So got to start with the new kid on the block here. Of course, I've talked a lot about the new EC Comics that Oni Comics has brought back. So we've got new titles like Epitaphs from the Abyss, which is your more traditional horror anthology book, similar to like a Tales from the Crypt. The Cruel Universe is your sci-fi themed anthology. Now we have Cruel Kingdom. #1, it just premiered this week here. This is your fantasy horror anthology. So I love this front cover here. This, of course, refers to the lead story written by Greg Pak called The Robo King. But yeah, 4 stories in here. I absolutely love this book here. So much like Epitaphs, I was absolutely on board from issue 1 on this one here. So I'm very much looking forward to the other 2, or actually the next couple issues that are coming up next year. Excuse me. I think we've only got a couple issues that are solicited right now. I believe for right now, this is supposed to be a 6-issue miniseries. We'll see if it goes from there, because Epitaphs was originally going to be 6 issues, then it's now been extended to 12. So Cruel Universe has been a good series, but it's very hit and miss, because sometimes you'll get one story of the 3 or 4 that are in there that are really good, and maybe the others aren't, or you'll get one particular issue that's excellent. So it's, like I say, it's really hit and miss. Epitaphs, for me, has been very consistent, the 6 issues. There's really not a throwaway story in here, and very similar with Cruel Universe. Very consistent, really fun, takes on things. There's actually, for anybody that's a Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs fan, there's a take on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs that's it's interesting. I really liked it here. Yes, that is true, V. There is no Batman this week, even though Absolute Batman #4 was very good. But I am trying to put more things on here that aren't just Batman books. Bradley, hey, good to see you, sir. Bradley Smith, always in the house here. He says you like some horror elements in your fantasy stuff. And yeah, that would be right up your alley, dude. So yeah, Cruel Universe, definitely worth checking out. Next up here, this is issue 10 of Geiger. This is, of course, part from Image Comics and part of the Ghost Machine imprint, which is, of course, a new creator-owned imprint that Jeff Johns, Jason Fabok, Gary Frank, Brent Anderson, and lots and lots of talented people are involved in this here. But this is part of the unnamed universe here. So we've got a lot of figures existing in different eras of history that are kind of in sort of all supposed to come together at some point for a great war that is yet to happen. For people who are longtime readers of Geiger or Junkyard Joe, even the Red Coat, stuff like that, this is a great payoff issue. This was a lot of fun. Issue 9 teased that Junkyard Joe was coming into because Geiger exists in our future, like 25 years into our future. We blow up everything, nuclear holocaust, yada, yada, yada. So everything looks like Mad Max, sort of thing like that. So, of course, Junkyard Joe is a robot that dates back to the Vietnam War. That literally was created by American scientists and is supposed to be the perfect GI. And so he served during the Vietnam War and has existed since. So, yeah, finally we get Geiger and Junkyard Joe crossing over this issue. So, yeah, like I say, if you've been a longtime reader for Geiger, it's a great payoff issue. Next up here, this was a lot of fun here. Transformers #16. Of course, Seth and I have both talked about how much we love the Energon universe, how fun it's been for if you're a longtime Transformers or a G.I. Joe fan, or whether you're new to both franchises. Either way, this has been, lots of fun here. This cover says it all. This issue, we have Devastator versus Bruticus. So what's worse than one giant robot? Well, when you can get 6 giant robots transforming together into one massive robots. So we now have two massive robots having a giant slugfest in this issue. And that's not the only cool thing that happens in this book. There's a oh shit ending at the end of this issue that I've been waiting for, and it's also, this has been flagged as a key, folks, just because there is a 3-issue preview of the upcoming Invincible Universe Battle Beast series. So if you're a fan of the old Invincible comic, you remember Battle Beast from there, who is literally the baddest mofo in the galaxy. He's a bounty hunter. He is nigh indestructible, always looking for someone to best him in combat, because dying in combat is a glorious death, that kind of guy. Yeah, there's a 3-issue preview in this issue of Transformers. So therefore, lots of people have been picking that up because, Invincible, of course, in my opinion, but in many opinions, is one of the greatest comic books ever to exist. So to get a spin-off character from a book we've missed for many years, that's icing on the cake there. Oh, and Bradley's got a comment here. It says, by the way, have you ever considered showing anything by American Mythology Productions? Actually, early in the podcast, I loved their Night of the Living Dead stuff. So when they had the Night of the Living Dead Revanche series, which basically told the story of the original Night of the Living Dead, the movie that came out in the 60s, but it also expanded upon it a little bit more. So that was I believe, a 5-issue miniseries, or 4 or 5 issues, something like that. But so that was an excellent series by American Mythology. Also, they had a follow-up to that called Night of the Living Dead Kin, which that was a 4-issue mini that takes place in the same time period of the original Night of the Living Dead, but is in the hills of West Virginia, like the Appalachian area. So like people are even further isolated, and they don't have any idea what's going on. So they don't get the radio reports or anything like there's people the bodies of the dead are rising from the grave and attacking the living, that sort of thing like that. They don't know what's going on. So I know that American Mythology is currently doing a Return of the Living Dead series going on right now, but me personally, Return of the Living Dead, yes, it's a classic, it's fun. It's not a favorite of mine. I know it's a hot take, but yeah, Return of the Living Dead is not a favorite. But that's honestly the only thing I can think of from American Mythology that I've covered before. But yeah, when they've done the Night of the Living Dead stuff before, both those have been excellent series. So I know those definitely, I've read those before. All right, and one last review here for us. I have loved this series from Distillery here. This is the 3rd issue of The Blood Brothers' Mother by Brian Azzarello and Ed Rizzo. Of course, that is the team that originally brought us 100 Bullets in the old Vertigo series from DC. So, love that series. I have swooned over this book for so long. I just absolutely love this series here. Essentially, this is kind of a spaghetti Western style of story here, where you've got some bad guys who are just getting out of a long stay in prison, reuniting, and like, all right, we got one less gang member we got to get, the main guy's girlfriend. Okay, we're gonna go find the girl, right? But essentially, she wasn't just the girlfriend; she was also a part of the gang. So they find her, they track her down, and she has remarried a town preacher. So she's kind of apparently changed her ways. They now have 3 boys. It's not 100% clear if that she's kind of the stepmother or if she actually gave birth to all 3 of these children. But you've got the oldest at 13 and the youngest boy is like 8. So I think the middle one's maybe like 10 or 11, somewhere around there. So anywho, bad guys track her down, and husband, preacher husband, is not too happy about wanting to let her go back with her gangster people and abandon her family, and he gets killed. So now you've essentially got these 3 children who are on a mission to recover their mother from this gang and kill the people that killed their dad. Yeah. So issue 3, things are getting a little more intense for the brothers here. Some things kind of get in the way of the mission, perhaps. One gets distracted, and perhaps now we have, a little bit of a loss of focus of the initial mission because different things have happened. So that's what's going on this here. And of course, we possibly escape death from some murderous outlaws that are different than the actual murderous outlaws that we're essentially tracking down. Of course, the gang in question here has to deal with some bounty hunters themselves. So, of course, just great Western, very gritty, dirty kind of stuff here. But the best part was I thought initially this was the final issue of Blood Brothers Mother. It's not. I've been trained initially when early distillery releases were only 3-issue series. But issue 4 was teased after this one here. So there is more to come in the near future. So I'm very excited about that. So yeah, I've really enjoyed a lot of the books from Distillery. Some people have been kind of iffy about not liking the larger prestige format. Personally, I love it, and I know exactly why they're doing it, because this is more of a artistic measure, a creator-owned imprint, kind of harkening back to the early days of Image. But even more so, they really want to showcase the art and give the artists more freedom to do more and have a larger space to do it in. So you get a lot more splash pages. All the covers are wraparounds, no matter which, if you get your A cover, B cover, any of the incentive variants. Yeah, everything's a wraparound cover. So it's really a nice artistic showcase for things. And of course, sometimes the issues or topics that are covered in the book are subversive. Sometimes they're very weird and, more unusual than you would see in other indie books. But yeah, you get some really nice, they get some people who take chances. And sometimes that's needed in comedy. So I really enjoy that. All right. To our topic du jour here. And of course, I definitely want to talk about Raw that was on Netflix that premiered this past Monday night to the tune of 4 million viewers, which is more than double of what Raw's been getting recently. So definitely the people came out for this one. I expected the fact that there was going to be a lot of pageantry and a lot of pomp and circumstance. That we're whipping out the celebrities. We're going to whip out some stars from the past. And we're going to do this up big, do lots of fireworks, lots of video packages, all that jazz. I completely 100% accepted that. And some folks had some problems with it. I've seen some comments online, or just general people talking, chat groups, wherever else. Me personally, like I said, I knew for this premiere episode, this was what it was going to be. There was going to be a lot of this stuff. The first 3-hour SmackDown on USA, which premiered last week, kind of was very similar. So, WWE loves patting themselves on the back. I don't care which era of WWE it is. If it's the Triple H era, if it's the Vince McMahon era, doesn't matter. They love giving themselves the old Barry Horowitz there, So yeah, I had zero problem with that. We actually had some good matches. There was 4 matches that were booked. You had, start off with the Roman Reigns Solo Sikoa, which for me was probably the match of the night. There's a lot of overbooked stuff in there, but it still felt like it came together. There was a lot of stuff that happened in that match, especially at the end where you had interference from both the old bloodline and the new bloodline. But in the end, though, it definitely ended the way it should have, with Roman Reigns coming out on top. He got his Ula Fala, the ceremonial necklace back, indicating that he is the tribal chief. The interesting thing was The Rock. Rock comes out and basically, we see him before, in the open, and then Rock comes out a second time. And previously, last year, we saw The Rock, the final boss Rock. He was definitely playing a bad guy. Now he's in here, and we're seeing kinder, gentler final boss. And I'm wondering what's up with that. Are they trying to set up anything for WrestleMania between he and Roman? What is going on at this point? Because we had, even the last time we saw The Rock, which was October of last year, somewhere around the fall, and he kind of gave like a the kill symbol to like Roman and Cody in the ring, and then now backstage he's sharing a drink with Cody and giving him a pat on the back, and presenting Roman with the ceremonial necklace, and so it's kind of confusing with how they're booking Rock right now. So I kind of hope it goes somewhere, but I'm very curious because there's a lot of potential with what they can set up for WrestleMania with with what they're going to do with Cody, what they're going to do with Roman, what they're going to do with John Cena. Of course, they kind of teased a little bit of that with Cena's speech, kind of talking about this is his final year, this is his retirement year. Not sure if he's going to wrestle the entire year. I think he said he's got like 30 some odd dates throughout the year booked. So definitely he's going to hit a lot of the big spots though. But we're obviously setting him up for WrestleMania. He's put himself into the Royal Rumble. I like that. I like kind of the idea of him chasing the belt a little bit. The chase is always better than the catch when it comes to wrestling. So I really appreciate that. I wouldn't mind seeing a Cena versus Cody Rhodes match for WrestleMania for the belt. I wouldn't mind seeing that at all. So the bigger question I've got at this point isn't for any of the top guys. It's for Solo Sikoa. So Solo had we lost War Games. He's now lost his Ulafala. So we've lost some major things going on right now. Any chance he's had at a championship belt, against Cody or anything like that, he's lost that too. So at this point right now, you kind of wonder, is the Solo versus Roman story over? And we're now moving on to a new chapter of things, and Solo's and his bloodline is going to do other stuff, or will we see some sort of revenge storyline, or is there still a further layer to this whole bloodline storyline, which has been going on for quite some time, and just when you think it's over, there's more to it. So yeah, I'm really, really curious about that. Again, we shall see. So let's see here. Other high points, of course, Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, I thought was an excellent match. Definitely ended the way it should have, with Rhea on top with the Women's Championship. So Mommy's back in the house. I loved the little bit of revenge she got on Dominic. So she got to beat him up a little bit in the ring. And then, of course, Undertaker coming out and basically kind of giving the rub to Rhea. It's like, basically, getting a nice crowd cheer from them and getting the pose at the end there. So that's always kind of a nice indication when a legend comes out with a future star or a current star or whatever else, kind of giving them the rub a little bit, the little thumbs up, stuff like that. So that's interesting. We'll go back to the Undertaker when we talk about Hogan. I think, honestly, the only weak match of the night for me was Drew McIntyre, Jey Uso. And on paper, that should have been a good match, but it just kind of felt a little off. It was definitely the pee break match if you needed one. Honestly, the second match of the night for me, though, was Punk and Seth Rollins. I'm a big Punk fan, as we know. We've talked about this on the podcast numerous times here. I really enjoyed this match. Thought it was a lot of fun. Definitely not over. This is literally just the beginning for these two here. So Punk got one off kind of barely. So yeah, definitely Seth is going to be out for revenge. So I want to see more coming from this group. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. So, but of course we saw a lot of, like I said, talked before, we saw a lot of celebrities. Nice seeing, some 90 stars like Topanga, Will Friedle. Got to see Seth Green and a very good-looking Macaulay Culkin, looking all nice and healthy and everything. So, yeah, that was pretty awesome. So that was a lot of fun there. Good little pop for the crowd. But the big talk of the night, Mr. Hulk Hogan. So we saw, like I said, a few stars of yesteryear, The Rock, The Undertaker. We almost could have seen Stone Cold Steve Austin, but apparently something couldn't be worked out at the last minute. But he apparently was in the works to be a part of the show, but it apparently did not happen. And, of course, we did see Triple H and Stephanie McMahon as well in the crowd. But, yeah, the reaction on the Hulkster from the LA crowd, literally instantly getting booed. He can barely get through what he's trying to say, which literally wasn't a matter, like, he's not there just saying, hey, how's it going, folks? How you doing? Or giving the rub to some other guy. No. He's basically announcing that the beer that he put his face on has a partnership with WWE. So now they will be selling his beer at stadiums where they're at. Whoopity-doo. Unfortunately, Jimmy Hart had to be present, so he got some of the boos too, which Jimmy does not deserve the boos. I love Jimmy Hart. Jimmy's a wonderful guy. He's a lot of fun. But yeah, yeah, Jimmy got some blowback too as well. But yeah, a lot of schadenfreude for me on this one because I am not a Hogan fan. I've not been a Hogan fan since the 80s. And a lot of people have really discussed this of why the crowd booed Hogan. If these on here, what's the big talk, brother? Excuse me. So I'm certainly getting over a cold last week or so I'm a little scratchy there. But a lot of people instantly said, "Oh, well, the LA crowd booed Hogan because of his politics, because he appeared at the RNC in support of Donald Trump. That's why the LA crowd booed him because it's a very liberal town." Not that easy, folks. Because, like I said previously, we saw The Undertaker earlier in the evening, literally less than an hour before we saw Hogan. Did the crowd boo Undertaker? No. They cheered him. They love Undertaker. But, as we well know, Undertaker is a Trump supporter. Undertaker has had, President Trump on his podcast, literally very recently. So, it has nothing to do with Hogan's politics. In my opinion, in my estimation, in a lot of other people's estimations, Hogan has had far too many scandals over the years. In recent years, the Gawker sex scandal, him dropping N-bombs on video and that getting released to the public, and then him trying to basically do a mea culpa sort of thing like that. And, "Oh, I've learned my lesson," and "No, you haven't." Sort of stuff like that. But then basically Hogan's history over the years, a lot of documentaries have covered the events of the 1980s, the early 90s, kind of his heyday. And a lot of bad history has come out for Hogan of him basically literally kind of stepping on people to get to the top and pushing others down and not letting them get as big of a piece of the pie as him because, he's a greedy SOB. There's also the unionization scandal, which was basically Jesse Ventura, after he'd started doing some movies and TV. It's like, "Oh, well, they take good care of us and we have health care." It's like, wrestlers need health care. So he basically, when he was still working for WWE, tried to organize, to get the wrestlers to unionize and, get health care, basically as part of their pay and things like that. And literally Hulk Hogan ratted Jesse out to Vince McMahon, stopped it, Jesse got fired. And of course, wrestlers still today don't have health care unless they get it themselves. They don't get it through their employer. So yeah, that's a big scandal that's kind of caught up with Hogan. Of course, all the the years of train and say your prayers and eat your vitamins and all that kind of stuff, and then basically, Hogan was juicing the entire time in his heyday. That's why he had the 24-inch pythons, is because he was using steroids and human growth hormones and all kinds of jazz like that. Oh, hello, Mrs. Fanatic, Michelle Kessler-Bueller on here. Good to see you, dearest. And you said that watching Hogan get booed was hilarious. It's all over TikTok. Yes, it is. They're the memes, the videos, the everything. It's all over there. And like I said, again, poor Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart doesn't deserve anything. He always comes out as Hogan's manager, as kind of a side piece and whatever else. But Jimmy didn't deserve any of the hate there. But yeah, literally just the years of scandals and bad publicity and whatever else. Just in 2025, the wrestling crowd's a lot smarter than they were in the 1980s. And so a lot of Hogan's bad history just caught up to him, and people are tired of it. And, it's like, we saw some legends out here, but they weren't trying to shill their own products. And literally the only thing Hogan was out there doing was selling his own beer and then, stumping for Raw on Netflix in a very awkward promo because he could hear all the boos and all the hate going on. And it was totally throwing him off. So that was extremely interesting. And I had a very good chuckle because, Yeah, very vividly remember WrestleMania 6 when you had the Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan, title versus title sort of thing like that. So was with a group of kids I went to school with, kind of buddies at the time, and I was the only guy not cheering for Hogan. Everybody else was for Hogan. I was for Warrior. So as we know, as history tells us, I was the only one that came out happy that day because the Warrior beat Hulk Hogan. Unfortunately, history was also not kind of Warrior as well. So we all have heroes that didn't quite work out for us in wrestling, depending on who you enjoyed back in the day. There's a lot of other guys who are good people back in the, for your classic wrestlers from your 80s and 90s, and even further down the line that are good people. There are many of them, but unfortunately, we found a lot of our favorites maybe not. So it's always a good argument of separating the art from the artist, sort of thing like that. So where do you draw the line when it comes to an artist's behavior outside of the recording studio or the movie studio or whatever, if they're an athlete or something like that? Where do you draw the line and say, nope, I can't support this person anymore because of who they are, what they're doing, sort of things like that. So I'm always interested in those conversations when it comes to certain celebrities, because for me, there's been some cutoff points. I really enjoy Eric Clapton's music and a lot of the Blind Faith and Cream and stuff like that he was with. And then, of course, to come out in recent years that in the entirety, Eric Clapton has been a very vivid racist. For a guy who's really good at copying the African American blues music, he's also really good at tamping those same people down. So that's a big conflict there. So it's like, wow, man, it's like there's some songs of his and over the years and where various bands or solo projects his I liked. It's like, can I support a racist? Anyway. So that's a thing you've had to come across there. And of course, going back to wrestling, Chris Benoit has always been the big one there because this guy was he's a very intense wrestler. He wasn't like he was a fun guy or anything like that. He was the grappler sort of guy. And then his scandal he gets in with basically, overusing steroids and other, narcotics and whatever else that caused him, of course, and probably issues with CTE as well, that essentially caused him to murder his wife and son and then take his own life in the process. I mean, have I watched a Chris Benoit match since then? Yes. But is it really odd to watch this? Yes, it is. Do I do that very often? I do not. So, it's this definitely the Hogan situation has really brought up that sort of thing. It's like, a lot of people, again, a lot of apologists or people who immediately want to jump to politics and say, oh, it's because he's a Trumper. He likes Trump, and people who don't like Trump, that's what they want to do. And that's not the case with him. It's not the case. It's probably part of it, but there's a lot more that we don't like about Hogan that just keeps adding up. Hopefully there's no scandals on Undertaker's, no skeletons in his closet, no pun intended, but there doesn't seem to be. He seems to be a, quality person there, and, backstage is a good guy, a leader, and, basically, I mean, it seems to be that, in Undertaker's entire career, none of his friends were white people. So, it's like literally, if you like, all of his friends were like the Samoan guys, a lot of the African American wrestlers, stuff like that. So it definitely brings up a question of quality of character. So Undertaker seems to be in the okay book, and Hogan has definitely got himself on the naughty list and seems to be staying there. So I'm curious if they're going to try to whip out Hogan any more this year, or if they're going to take this opportunity to distance themselves even further. I know they've got a Saturday Night's Main Event coming up here, I think later this month, I believe, or it's either February. So I think it might be before the Royal Rumble. But either way, they got another one coming up there. They've had Hulk Hogan doing some of the promo videos for that. We'll see if that changes in the coming weeks. So stay tuned to that. So, all right. Well, unfortunately, this is going to be a little shorter show than usual here just because of my lack of co-star with me, but that's okay because he has a very good reason to be out there. So, of course, Seth will be back next week with the show here. We, of course, got two, like I said, early at the top of the show, 2 solid weeks set up here. We have got my buddy AJ Howard coming on here promoting literally his first comic book. I'm so excited for him. I'm like a proud papa with this thing. So we're going to talk about that. And then in 2 weeks, it's the Multiverse fundraiser. So we got more wrestling talk on there. I'm very excited about that as well. So anywho, if you guys, of course, been paying attention to the weather out there, you're in any part of the South or most of the United States right now, we're all under a whole lot of snow. So it's been falling straight today. It's a winter wonderland outside right now. So as you guys may know, I'm not a snow fan. So wife loves it. I'm like, yeah, but thankfully I don't have to go very far to work. So that's a bonus there. Anywho, so hope you all stay safe, stay warm out there. And of course, we will see you guys next time on the Fanatic Forum. Don't forget, like, share, check us out on StreamYard, all the places where you can find your audio podcasts and everything. So check us out there. But yeah, Fanatic Forum is the place and the home for all things geek. And we love you guys. So thank you all very much. And we will see you all next time. And of course, we will definitely be in here for Comic Books for Kids for the Multiverse fundraiser. But we've got a great promo for them. And we'll play it for you as we go out here. So you guys have a good weekend. We'll see you next time.
My name is Mark Weiss, and I am the founder and president of an organization called Comic Books for Kids. 6 years ago this month, we embarked on a journey of passion and heart. Our goal was to make a difference for children in hospitals and cancer centers. Little could we have ever imagined the response we have now. Starting with just hopes and dreams, we had no money for our mission. We had no product to give to the hospitals, and we had only called a couple hospitals and asked them, if we were to provide you with comic books, would you be interested? And they said yes. So we embarked on a 1-year journey to make a difference for these kids. We realized that even though we can't take away the reason these children are in hospitals, we can perhaps, while they are there, let them fly like a superhero, be princes and princesses, and embark on a mystical and magical journey to take them away from where they are in that hospital bed. Today, and thanks to your support, we are thrilled to say that we are now the largest charity in the U.S., supporting well over 200 hospitals in all 50 states for not only comic books, but for other pop culture items like Funko Pops, action figures, coloring books, Spanish bilingual items, backpacks, and more. When we received materials that were inappropriate for the young ones, we started a sister charity called Comic Book for Troops. And overnight, we became the largest charity in the U.S. for these same items to all branches of the military. We want to thank our friends for providing us their support and for allowing us the means to make so many happy with their gracious give to us.